Hello and welcome to Comedy in a Nutshell. You know, I love comedy, and one of my favourite things about it is its ability to remove barriers. The great pianist and comedian Victor Borge once said that laughter is the shortest distance between two people. I wonder if other comedians feel the same way, or perhaps they have a different take on it entirely. In this podcast, I hope to find out. You can find out more about my journey in comedy fandom on my website, thecomedynerd.com. I love talking to the people in comedy about comedy. If you like to hear what they have to say as much as I do, then please like, subscribe, rate, review, and share the podcast. Thank you. My guest this episode is a high-energy comedian whose observational comedy is matched only by his affable interactions with the audience. A long-standing Edinburgh Fringe favourite is the brilliantly ebullient stand-up comedian Patrick Monahan.
Here he is. Mark, how are you?
Hello, mate. I'm well. How are you doing?
Oh, my God. Literally just been non-stop on the tour. You've been pretty much watching comedy probably, what, for how many years now? 20 years?
Yeah, well, I saw my first live show in 1979.
No, you didn't. 1979?
Yeah, when I was 7.
Yeah, what? No, bloody... Yeah, you're about my... Because I'm 47. I'm thinking 1979. I was born in 76.
Yesterday was my 52nd birthday.
You had... It was your birthday yesterday?
Yeah.
Oh, you said, sorry, mate, happy birthday. We were in... I had a bloody ice cream for you in Windermere. Who did you see in 79 then? That would have been like Dave Allen or something.
Little and Large.
Ah, was that Phantom?
It was their show. It was in Poole, I think, a long time ago. I saw Dave Allen in 95. Still one of my favourite comics.
Yeah, I was going to say how good. I've never seen him live. That's the only person I wish I'd seen. Ken Dodd.
Oh, wow.
But just before he died, he was amazing.
Yeah.
Billy Connolly, when he was on fire in about 2007, 8, just before he got Parkinson's. And like, unbelievable. Like when you watch them people, you think, Jesus. Like Dave Allen, though, God, they're just, that's when they, like when you've got it, you've done so many years, they're just so good.
Yeah.
They're like bulletproof.
It's funny because sometimes with all the new comics coming through, they say, oh, who do you really like? I say, well, people you won't remember, people like Dave Allen. And they're like, who? I said, no, seriously, look him up. Because people forget that not only was he a great sketch comic and a great stand-up, and arguably a prop comic, because I was talking to Rich Wilson about that. He did prop comedy because he was always playing with the lint on his trousers and the glass and the chair. They were all props. But also, people forget that he was the first comic to use the F word on television.
And he was so controversial, ahead of his time, that whole...
Hugely.
He used to take the mic.
Yeah, banned from Ireland because of all his Catholic drives. Yeah.
And even from some venues and some places wouldn't book him because he was taking a mick out of the Pope and stuff. And you think like people nowadays, oh yeah, it was so controversial, so woke. And you think, no, I mean, it's been around. I mean, it was harder for him.
He got kicked out of Australia. I mean, how controversial do you have to be kicked out of Australia?
Yeah, Australia, mental.
Well, it's all well and good us talking about my comedy pedigree, but how did you encounter comedy for the first time?
Well,
that's what we're here to find out.
I would say probably. I mean, it's interesting because even though me and you are probably similar generation, same age, probably similar sort of things where I didn't see it as live like you. I mean, you were lucky that you saw it, I think, when you were 7. But when I saw comedy, we didn't really know that comedy existed. And because it was like, with that traditional sort of working class upbringing where we were that sort of upbringing where you couldn't even go out to clubs or afford to go out to watch stuff. So I remember my dad would come back from like, he'd work at the steelworks and then he'd come back home at like bloody, after like a 12-hour shift covered in grease with a boiler suit. Then he'd go out to the scrapyard and we'd be collecting metal or work or whatever, and we'd go and help him, whatever, if we were after school or whatever. And it was one of them things where you sort of grew up in this sort of, oh my God, like you'd see comedy, but it was dark comedy. It was proper like, you'd think, where is this humor coming from? Because it was just pure, you were surrounded by pure grime and, like just pure, it didn't seem like there was any sort of fun, but actually it was quite good fun because you would constantly, you'd meet so many characters. It was like being in a fast show sketch. 1 minute you'd be in a scrapyard, 1 minute you'd be, in a big steelworks, and then the next minute you'd be in the richest house you've ever seen collecting bits of scrap metal from these different people. And you'd see how my dad would switch the way he would talk to different people. And he was Irish. So he's obviously, he's got this Irish, a really strong Irish accent, brogue thing. And the way he would talk to these different people. And then it was people that you wouldn't really you wouldn't really grow up with, or you wouldn't really know, but then you'd see the way he would get them to laugh and different characters. And I suppose I saw it like that, but without an audience. And then while we did that, then I remember he was quite like even though he was right funny with people, he was very cold, old school sort of like style where, it was one of them typical old school where they had no emotions but except for humor. And
Right.
but then so you'd never see him get upset or anything, get angry, but never like, like nowadays where everyone goes, "Oh my God, I'm very emotional. I don't think I can come out today. I've got to get in touch with myself." I mean, there was nothing like that. And then I mean, I'd love to see the faces of people back then trying to cope with something like that. And so I remember we'd come home, and I remember at a night time, and I was quite young. I remember he'd put the telly on at 10, 11 o'clock at night, and then or whatever it was, and you'd put, he'd always watch things like the news, which was like doom and gloom, and then Dave Allen would come on afterwards. And then you'd see this guy who was like literally with his workmates or different people where they were like, oh my God, they were like solid, like bang, bang, really no emotion, solid. And then suddenly Dave Allen would come on and he would sit there like tears of laughter coming down his face. I mean, I'd never seen him crying his whole life except for watching Dave Allen. And you'd see tears coming down and you think, oh my God, what is this guy? And then I would sit watching Dave Allen. And I loved Dave Allen. I didn't understand what half the stuff he was going on about because I'm a kid. So I was just like, but I just loved the idea that there's a bloke there just sat and he's drinking, like I thought it was a glass of water. It's probably like vodka or whatever, but he's drinking a glass of water and he's just talking. And all these people in this TV studio are flying, like falling off the seats. And then I'm looking at my dad. I remember sitting there. He's howling with tears. And then my mum just didn't speak very good English at the time. She's Iranian, and she couldn't understand a word that Dave Allen was saying. But even still, she's laughing because my dad's laughing, and I think that's the first time I really saw things like that. I thought, oh my God, so comedy. I didn't know it was stand-up comedy because Dave Allen sat down, so it's not even stand-up comedy anyway. It's just a bloke talking. So I think that's where I got my idea of like just talking. I thought, you know what, I think that's the beauty of it. I thought, you know what, when I'm older, if I get a chance to do so, I just want to do something where I'm just talking and there's people there and it's just fun like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it came from, really. But and then the first time I saw live stand-up comedy was probably when I was on stage doing it. Was literally when I turned up to do it. That's how, like, particularly raw stand-up comedy. Because, like, honestly, before that, we just never, where people always go, oh my God, we've got to, I mean, this is controversial, but people always go, oh my God, we've got to pump money into the arts so that working class people and people around the UK can watch live things. Working class people couldn't give a monkeys. I know people where, and it's a shame, it's awful. We should have it, but it doesn't matter how much you could build a massive theatre on the side of where we lived, on the side of it's still our family. People wouldn't go because they're scared of it. They wouldn't know what it was. So I'd never seen anything live. I wouldn't know what it was. And I suppose in some ways that's a bad thing, but then in some ways it was a good thing because then at least you found your own voice. Because a lot of people grow up watching. I mean, it was before my time of comedy, whatever. But I remember loads of people were watching comics from the 80s and 90s. Like. Eddie Izzard or Rick Mail or whatever, yeah. And Bill Hicks, who later on I saw bits of and I thought he was brilliant. But they would say, yeah, at one point every comic was just trying to be like an Eddie Izzard, every comic was trying to be like a Bill Hicks, every comic was trying to be Rick Mail because they'd obviously watched them live for years and years. Yeah. And I was quite lucky it was the other way where you didn't really see anyone. You saw like obviously bits on TV, Dave Allen, whoever, Lee Evans, Richard Pryor, Robin Williams, the American ones. Yeah. And again, I didn't really see them as stand-ups. I just saw them as people who were personalities who did stuff on TV or they were entertainers, stuff like that. So I think, but yeah, it was weird. I don't think, and so the first time ever I properly saw a stand-up just doing stand-up was and they weren't even proper stand-ups. They were just open mic gigs. Was because I went to these gigs and I didn't know how it worked. I just assumed that you turn up to this pub and it was in Islington and it was like it's not, I think it's flats now, it's the Purple Turtle. God, it was like 2000. So I remember someone tried to do a Purple Turtle in Camden about a decade ago, but I don't know if that was the same thing, but it was, God, there was a guy called, so the guy who compared it was Paddy And do you remember him? He used to be a street performer, and apparently he'd worked with Eddie Izzard or something. And he seemed like a nice enough guy. And he was running the open mic, and that was the first time I remember Time Out. You remember the Time Out listing? So
Yeah.
Time Out used to be massive back then, and I remember there'd be like 3 or 4 pages of gigs, and I didn't realize what the difference was between open mic and professional. So there was like obviously Comedy Store jonglers, and then there'd be Purple Turtle, there'd be whatever, and they all had a phone number.
Yeah.
There's no internet. So
Yeah.
to like, yeah, do you remember that? And it wasn't even the 01 whatever number, or whatever it was. And you had to ring all these clubs. And it was so funny because I remember ringing up, you'd ring up clubs that were clearly established. There was names on there. There was probably like people like Dara Breen or whoever, like Lee Mack, who were like big comics who were obviously doing TV.
Yeah.
And then you just think, oh, that sounds familiar. I've seen that name on TV. And then you ring up the club, I just want to come do a gig. And then I found out you can't just turn up because they would go, well, where have you gigged? How many gigs have you done? And then I started to realize, I thought, well, I haven't actually done any. And I just went to them, yeah, I've done loads up north. I'm down in London now. I've never done a gig in my life. I just went, yeah, I'm in London now. I just thought, I'll do some gigs down here. And then eventually, I think it was the Purple Turtle. Well, it was the Purple Turtle because I turned up there and you didn't even need to ring because the guy never answered the phone. So I turned up. There's about 20 people in the room. And I thought, oh, this looks great. He looks busy. And I didn't realize out of the 20 people, 18 of them were like all acts. And then, so it was literally just all acts. And then there was one couple who, they looked like a lovely couple. They were sat there just drinking. And actually there was 3 bikers at the bar, like 3 leather jackets who weren't even facing the stage. You go in, there's a pallet on the floor. Yeah. These 3 guys, they're facing the bar. So I didn't even count them 3 as part of the audience because everyone else is facing the stage. And then I went and sat because you couldn't get us, all these little tables. So I went and sat with this lovely couple who just sat there. They seemed like them. And I sort of smiled. They looked a bit freaked out because I just sort of sat there and smiled. And they just were like, and then it turns out, I think they were Spanish or Portuguese. They couldn't even speak English. So they just turned up because it was an open mic. They didn't realize it was an open mic night because it's free. It's just a bar. Right. They were in Islington. So all these other people were literally open mic people who were getting up, doing stand-up. So I just sat there. First half, about 8 people got up, and it was nice. It was interesting, but because I'd really seen stand-up before, and I didn't, know, and I didn't realize this, open mic is sort of on the way up, like progressing. That's how you start. Yeah. And it was mainly people just having a breakdown. There was one guy. He started off really good, like I'd watched him, and I was oh yeah, this is great. And then it started with one guy talking about whatever my wife left me this, and it started off really interesting, and then it just suddenly got into like therapy, and you were just like. Oh my God. And then you'd realize actually some of these people probably need, help, but I suppose they're doing this to sort of save money on therapy or whatever. And then in the interval, I just went over to the guy and said, look, can I do a set, whatever? I just want to do a thing. And he said, yeah. Have you done stuff before? And I just pretend. I said, yeah, I've done, North. And he goes, okay, put you on, do 5 minutes. And he said, do a minimum of 3 minutes. A lot of people go up there, they freak out, they do a minute and run off. Don't do that. Just stand up. Even if you can't, even if you start freaking out, just take a breath. No one's bothered. Just stand there. Yeah. And then if you lose your way or you look at your notes, your jokes, whatever you want to talk about, but just try and do 3 minutes and get off and then hopefully do 5. I said, yeah, no worries. And he said, any problems, I'll give you a flash or whatever. 3 or whatever. And I said, yeah, okay, brilliant. And anyway, so when I go up, and all I remember is just sitting there. And of course, I didn't have a set list. I mean, I had ideas. I'd written down loads of stuff. I was talking about things that was going on, things about myself, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And I remember just sitting there, and then this couple who were Portuguese or whatever, this young couple, they were just sitting, and I kept smiling at them like this. And they were thinking, who's this nutter? And then when my name got called, I remember walking up on stage and just like exactly the same now, sort of thing, smiley, waving, excited. And then I remember just talking, and I was going through things from like the Spice Girls, the Millennium Dome, whatever it was. And I remember like the points of the stuff. Yeah. And it was all like things I was going through like this. And then I remember, and it was nice. And then I did like I talked about whatever it was, Bruce Forsyth, what do points make? You lose your driving license. That was one of the jokes I remember, like, hey, what do points make? Do you remember what is that? And then people, and I go, oh, yeah, points make. And they go, prizes. I said, no, you lose your driving license. You lose your driving license. And it was like really like just me messing around and just stupid things like. And then, and what was funny was I think I mean, I enjoyed it much more than the audience, but because I was enjoying it so much, I was thinking it's great. And obviously, with hindsight, if I look back at it now, the audience were probably just like, they were probably just sat there like in amusement, thinking, "What the hell is going on?" And anyway, the guy flashes, and I thought that was 3 minutes because he said, "Look, I'll flash you at 3 minutes to let you know, you've done your 3 minutes, you're safe now. You can just cry, do your couple of minutes to wrap up." And he kept flashing, flashing, and then I was like that, and then I went, "All right, one more thing, one more," and then I finished off, and I came off, and the guy went, "You did about 7.5 minutes, nearly 8 minutes. What were you doing?" And I went, "Oh, sorry, mate. It went so quick. I didn't realize." And he went, "Yeah, you just meant to do 5. I thought you'd do, 3. Most people would struggle at 3 and then 5." And he went, and he went, he said, "Listen," he said, "you clearly enjoy that." I said, "Yeah, yeah." He goes, "You've just got to learn. You've got to let the audience laugh because you're trying to talk and you've got to have some sort of structure as well. And then you've got to have some sort of point where some of your stuff, there's no clear punchline yet. So the audience don't know where you're starting and stopping, where's your thing." And then I realized at that point, I thought, oh my God. So actually there's like a science, not just like a science to it, but there's actually some sort of structure to it. So Dave Allen had really tricked us all thinking that, he just sits there and talks. And actually he's like, there's a mastermind behind him. Yeah. And now as you get older, you realize, so obviously before he goes on, like Billy Connolly, I remember when I saw Billy Connolly live, and it was amazing. He walked on with a piece of paper. Billy Connolly didn't even hide the fact. I mean, Dave Allen, if you watch documentary, Dave Allen, they all have all cues, they'll have like words, whatever, and it's just a set list. Yeah. But Billy Connolly, I remember at the, God, what was it? The Apollo or whatever it was called back then, Hammersmith.
Hammersmith
and
Odeon,
it was, the Odeon, that was it, the Odeon. And it was brilliant. And I remember he just literally 2007, 2008, I can't remember. One of my mates, lovely Sean James, a comedian, said Sean was like, Sean, he's brilliant. And he said, "Look, I've got these tickets for Billy Connolly. I've got a spare one. Do you want to come?" And I said, "Yeah, I mean, I love Billy Connolly. I've seen him on the internet, TV or whatever." And I went, "Let's go." And oh my God, Billy Connolly was brilliant because he literally came, like, this is what happened. 7:30 normally, and remember at this point, I've never really seen big shows. Right. I was still getting into, I just progressed from open mic spots to like jonglers or whatever, like bigger gigs, but still never seen, 3,000 people just in an arena like this thing, and normally you'd expect, normally when you've ever seen something on telly, normally there's like a big announcement, like the X Factor where they go, "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome, here it is," and the audience go mental. With Billy Connolly, we're all in there packed, 7:30, we just sat down there, literally just sat down. "All right, Sean, how's the gig?" And then suddenly you just hear, "Right, okay, put your hands together, coming out," and then just a voice like, "What?" And then it wasn't even a football, and then you just see this guy walking on, because we're right at the top of the pond, you look down, and there's a guy in black tracksuit bottoms or like baggy pants and just a t-shirt, like a little stripy t-shirt, just walking on, hair scruffy, and then obviously it's Billy Connolly holding a piece of paper and just a drink, and a piece of paper, and you could see it literally just written like loads of set. It just walked out, couldn't even give a monkeys, and it was people. He just put it down on his stool like this, so we could all sit up there and then drink. And he went, "All right, hey, all right. So anyway, good evening. You all right?" And then everyone goes, "What's it?" And then literally 7:30 p.m. And because I was, even though for someone like me who overruns all the time, I'm really anal because I always like to look at my watch and think, God, how long do these guys do? I'd be interested to see what he does. And I remember looking at my watch, and I think it was 7:31, and then I was thinking, okay, and I went, right, so so he hasn't got a support act. He'll probably do 30, 40 minutes, warm the crowd up, then there'll be an interval, and then he'll probably do an hour and a half. And then about an hour goes on, and I can see a couple of people twitching to go for the toilet. But I mean, he's smashing again. I mean, it's hilarious. About an hour and a half goes on, and I can't remember if I said to Sean or Sean said to me, he said, "I'm dying for a wee, but I think I'll just wait till the interval." I said, yeah. And then literally it was 10:31, 3 hours straight, no interval. And you couldn't tell by that point. There was points where you got so into it. It just flew like that. At 10:31, he went like this. I mean, the place is laughing, and he just went, "All right, ladies, all right. So I don't bother with the interval. I don't bother with an encore, nothing like that, because people get bored. They won't come back. Right, I'll see you later." I just walked out, and I thought, oh my God, that was like a masterclass in comedy. And then people complain that I overrun by 6 minutes. I'm like, behave yourself. Billy Connolly did 3 hours straight without a toilet break. I mean, that's like yeah. If I was doing a set, and even last night, the other night, I'm on tour at the moment. Last night I was meant to do 30 minutes, 35 minutes for the first half. I did 50 minutes. Doesn't matter. You do if it is as long as it's coming in under an hour for the first half, and then I have a break, people have got time, and then I'll do an hour in the second half. But there's no way, even I'm not crazy enough to keep an audience sat for 2, never mind 3 hours. I wouldn't keep them there for 2 hours. That's bonkers. But it's beautiful. Beautiful the way people do it. You just think, God.
Yeah.
But it's weird because, you're saying, when did you first see live comedy, or when, whatever. With hindsight, it's weird because I think I wouldn't have changed it, because I think it's quite nice that you don't. I would be put off if I was a young lad, because I didn't know what stand-up comedy was. I'd be put off if I was a young lad and then I got took to like, a massive theatre somewhere, or even just to a massive comedy club where there's 500 or 400 or 300 people at like a Jongleurs or something back in the day. And and you sit there as a young lad and they go, listen, this is what you're going to do as a job. You're going to stand up there. And I go, you mental? I'm not going to, why would I want to stand here and talk for all these drunk people, or talk for the people, and then, so it was quite nice in this way, because it was like you learned on the job. Then you realize, oh, actually, you know what? It's good fun. You've done it this way. But I suppose with hindsight, the only thing I would change, I would probably go and see Dave Allen before he died. I'd love to go and see acts before they, like the real legends, because, that's it. They don't, people like that, you can't really make people like that. That's just like one-offs, another Dave Allen might come around in the next 300 years, if you're lucky, but they're not like, such a great act.
Yeah. I loved him. Do you remember the clock routine?
When you retire, you work all your life to the clock.
Exactly. And then he said, what did they give you? Fucking clock. And that was the first time anyone had said fuck on television. And the amount of letters they got said,
Yeah. I can't remember, but wasn't it something like they didn't even know, because it was live TV, they didn't even know he was actually going to say fucking, because I think he just said it, didn't he, or something, because apparently when they rehearsed over it was obviously clear that he just got so into it, because that's the problem is, it's like, God, who's that other guy that people use? Not Tom O'Connor, Desert. What's the one that Bob Monkhouse? Do you remember Bob Monkhouse?
Oh, yeah.
So Bob Monkhouse, I remember growing up as kids, and you see him presenting or whatever on TV, and he was like the cleanest guy you've ever seen.
Yeah.
And then I remember, and I didn't even know he was stand-up because he was so professional. And then I remember someone gave us like an old VHS of him doing stand-up. Yeah. Jesus, it was like the bluest thing you ever. Like he was doing gags, doing jokes, and talking about things, and then in the middle of his act, he goes, "All right, ladies and gentlemen, I've got to babysit my niece. I'm just going to quickly go have a wee break while my niece comes on." And he brings this stripper on. This girl comes out, and I'm like, "This is Bob Monkhouse, who you'd see on this." And it was like the weirdest. I don't know if you've ever seen that show. It was the weirdest VHS like stand-up show I've ever seen. And he was like new and graphic and stuff like that. Yeah. I mean, still tame compared to today's standards, but back then, it was crazy.
It's weird that partly what you could get away with, but also there were a lot of constraints, what you could do. And mostly, like you say, we saw these people on television. So what we saw live and what we saw on TV were two different acts,
Yeah. So Dave Allen, like when people go, Dave Allen, he was so calm and lovely, and he'd sit there. That's what I think. But if you actually saw him live, I bet, did he swear? I never saw him. Did he swear?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what you expect.
The genius that Dave Allen did was that every tiny gesture and every word out of his mouth was so carefully thought out that it wasn't, although there was a lot, it wasn't gratuitous. It was always to a purpose. There was always a point behind it.
Yeah.
So it made an impact every single time. It wasn't just like coming out and effing and blinding arbitrarily,
Exactly. You don't try to do it just for the sake of shocking. He was actually really passionate about stuff, and I think that's the difference.
Yeah.
As opposed to people now who go, "I'll tell you, F this and that," and you go, "Yeah, but what's your point?" Just, if you take out like them 16 swear words, where's
what's left? Yeah. Where's the joke?
Oh no, it's crazy.
But talking about these great acts that we've seen in the past, you've been doing comedy a long, long time. So how has comedy changed from your perspective, or how has your act changed in that time?
Do you know what? It's weird because I don't think look, in terms of how comedy's changed, I don't think I don't think comedy changes. I think it's just the observations just get updated. It's exactly the same. People are making the same jokes. It's just that, topics are more fresh.
Yeah.
Nobody is ever as groundbreaking as everyone makes out, and nobody is mainstream as anyone makes out. It's all the same. And look, they class us as alternative comics, but we're not. We're literally just, we're making observations. The only major difference between what we've done and what was done in the past was the main shift was obviously between observational comedy and just telling jokes.
Yeah.
Nowadays, this is the reason why comedy nowadays won't really change, because that's all we do now is everyone just writes their own jokes. You're always going to get people who, well, you won't really get people who will just try and steal jokes or like try and do pub jokes, because there's no point. They won't even have a career. They wouldn't last.
Yeah.
But it's like, well, the only thing that changes now is people think their style changes. You'll get someone go, oh yeah, I'm wacky, I'm different. You go, not really. There's been people like that since day one. There's no difference whatsoever. And the only thing as well is you do get most people nowadays brilliant. People just get on with it. And the new comics are great, but you will get people who go, oh yeah, I'm controversial, I'm this and that. And you're not. If you have to say you're controversial, you're not controversial. And it's been like that since day one. I remember when I started, there used to be comics going, you're not laughing, or you shouldn't have come in here because you saw my name on the door. I'm controversial, all this. And the audience are going, no, mate, we're not laughing because it's just not funny. What's the,
Yeah.
I think that's the problem nowadays, that a lot of people have done this, that we've got a lot of these things about, oh my God, people are trying to cancel me. And they're not. Nobody gives a monkeys about anyone. It's like, fair enough. If you are offensive or aggressive, then yeah, then you are going to get people who are going to come after you slightly. But no one can really cancel anyone. It's just a load of rubbish.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I've noticed that when I first started, I think the massive change for me was that, you look at the comics that we grew up with, or like Dave Allen, whoever, Robin Williams, Richard Pryor, even Lee Evans, you'd see these people and people love them. And I think when I started, I thought, oh God, yeah, please like me. I want the audience to love me. I want the audience to like, and you can't get an audience to love you just by the fact of going on and going, hey, please love me. Please. That's just stupid, And I remember doing that for years and years, thinking, oh, I want to make sure the audience are happy. I want to make sure the audience like that. And then eventually, the only way you get better is when you stop worrying about what they think and just be funny. You Karen, because eventually they will get in. You're not going to please everyone. Fair enough. We don't all listen. Not everyone wants to eat cereal for breakfast. Not everyone wants a smoothie. Not everyone wants avocado. So stop trying to go on. But this is the best cereal in the world. This cereal we couldn't give a monkeys, mate. I've never had cereal. Just give me a smoothie or something. Or just give me like toast. I'm happy. And it's like, and that was the thing. It took me years to learn that, going, but why do they not all like me? Why is there? And then I realized, oh, actually, you don't need everyone to get to like you. Look at the biggest comics in the world. Look at Ricky Gervais, Jerry Seinfeld, and it was weird because when I was the first 10 years of my career, Ricky Gervais, I think, is a genius. I think he's amazing. Jerry Seinfeld, but amazing. But they weren't my style of comedy. I was just thinking, I don't get it. I don't understand why 50,000 people would go and see it. And then eventually realize, oh, I see it, because they're amazing that way. But like every big comic, for every amazing comic that gets, 1 million people coming to watch them, there'll be 1 million people that will think they're rubbish.
Yeah.
And that's the thing you learn when you're older. You realize, oh, actually, for every 300 people who come and see me at one tour show, or 100 people come and see me at a tour show, there's going to be 500 people that think I'm rubbish. Great, doesn't matter. I'm not playing to that 500. I'm playing to that so many hundred who were there last night. Or tonight, I'm going to play that. These are the 250 people who come to see me. Play to them. You don't have to worry about anyone else who's, and also it's and I think that's the thing that makes you, as you get older, you start to realize that, and then you realize, oh yeah, that's and then you get more, not confident, but you just get more comfortable in your routine, in your observations. And it's that classic thing where the best analogy people told me, they said, look, it's like when you get on a plane, it's like the pilot, you don't choose your pilot, but you instantly relax once because the pilot will come on. And the pilot goes, okay, ladies and gentlemen, relax. We're going to do this. We'll get your destination. We'll see you soon. And you relax. But if the pilot came on and went, all right, let's, oh, well, let's see what happens today. Like, okay, well, hopefully today we're going to try and get, and then if the pilot comes on, he's not sure what's going on. Everyone in the plane's going, what the hell? What the hell is this? And they're going, right, I want to get out of it. This guy doesn't have a clue what he's doing. And I think that's the thing with comedy.
Yeah.
You've got to be like that pilot. You've got to be just like about when they come on, you're going to take them to that destination. Whether you've already 95% of the battle you've already won because they're sitting in a room watching you.
Yeah.
And you can't the only way you can fail is if you deliberately go after them, or they are so intoxicated with alcohol, which was which is great because it's the same analogy on a plane. Planes always get diverted because there's always three passengers that you can't control, and fair enough, everyone else is beautiful, and you just have to get them off the plane, and that's not your fault. You're the best pilot in the world. You're the best comedian in the time for yourself. Whatever, it doesn't matter. You could be the best comedian. Well, I've seen massive comics at arenas. There was clips, wasn't there, where they'd show comics from around the world being heckled by someone drunk in a 20,000 seater. Even the comedian on stage can't really hear it, but they sort of the person gets ejected, and you just think, you've just paid £100 to see this amazing comic, and you're so drunk, you're just blurting out stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a case of, as you get older, you realize, you've got to realize it's that whole thing about, you can't please everyone, and that's not your job. Your job is to entertain. I'm not starting a cult. I'm not a religious leader. I'm just a comedian that's going to make people laugh. If you want to come and see me do tour shows, great. Come and see me. If you don't want to come and see me, great. I'm happy with that as well. If you want to go and see comedy, go and see someone else. Or even if you want to stay at home and, watch a comedy DVD, do that. It's brilliant. Just have fun in your life.
Yeah.
And it is funny because, the reason I tell you this is because, look, I've been touring now. I'm back on a brand new tour, and then I start a new show festival. My year just constantly goes like this. It goes like every June, July is the start of my year. I write a new show or preview my new show. Festival at Edinburgh for the month, I run through the new show. Autumn, I'll do a couple of little more tour previews. I'll do Panto, and then January, February, March, all spring to June, I just tour the hell out of that show, and then I start again June, July, reset, and it goes round.
Yeah.
And as you keep doing that, you realize, oh, this is nice. You learn how to write, you improve things, that it does slightly get easier because you get more life experience. You learn how your voice is. You watch when it starts to click into place, when you realize how Dave Allen and Billy Connolly were so good, because they weren't like that. Billy Connolly and Dave Allen, when they were 27 or 37, they weren't as good as they were when we saw them when they were 57 and 67, because they had 30, 40 years of experience.
Yeah.
You can't, it's like giving a young kid an air rifle and a pellet. Yeah, right, he might be able to hit the target, whatever, but give him a machine gun to this young kid, like an AK-47 that's got he's got like infrared sensors that's 100 times more accurate than that air rifle. The kid's he's gonna kill everything but the target he's hitting, because he hasn't got that mentality, hasn't got that experience to hold it.
Yeah.
And I think it's so funny, because even now for me, where I've got so much experience doing it, I'm enjoying, and I love comedy. Like even Sean, my mate, even last night we were talking in tech, and they were saying, "Look, when do you think you retire?" And I said, "Probably when." Like I'm 80 and I'm dead on stage, like Eric Morecambe, and it was the other one, like Ken Dodd. You just want to carry on until you collapse.
Yeah. And
it is funny though, but going to that thing where even though you find in your audience you're doing stuff, you're always going to get, the difference now is you learn how to, get on with it, where every now and again you might get a drunk heckler, or you might get someone who's not sure what's going on. Like I was doing a tour show. We do these tour shows, and like these, and it's rammed, it's packed in there, it's lovely. There's people all from around the areas have come. It's their big night out, and there's three like old posh women in who are my nemesis. I don't know what it is, because old people, I love it. Middle-aged old people, my audience, young people, great. I love that. But my nemesis is either you'll get a group of like some people who are drunk, couple of people who are too drunk, where you just think, what's the point? Or you get like an extreme, either drunk or you get extreme poshness. And I got like these couple of old ladies in, and really posh. I mean, it was like, not listen. I'm not prejudiced, but you know when people are a bit too entitled, so everyone's loving the show, and I'm in the 10, 20 minutes into the show, 30, and then I see the sound guy coming over and he's playing with the thing, and then everyone's looking, and I'm looking over, I'm going, is everything, what's going on? And he goes, oh, sorry, yeah. And he's pointing over to these three posh women over at the side of this hall, this venue like this,
Yeah.
and they're like, looking, and I go, you all right? What's going? And I carry on, and they go, can't hear. And I'm, all right, no. And I'm like, and I was like, everyone else is laughing. I'm going, can you hear? And then this table's a bit like, yeah, yeah, we can. And I said, all right, okay, well, all right, we're good at that. And then he starts, then they go back. About 5 minutes later, they call the sound guy, and then again he's trying to mess around with the mic, and I'm like, "What's going on?" And they go, "Yeah, we don't know what's going on." And then they're the really poshest people ever. And then eventually, about 3 or 4 times, and then eventually, I said to them, "What is it?" And they go, "We can't understand the words you're saying." And I'm like, "Look, that's my accent. That sound is not going to change. You can't tweak what my accent is." Or that everyone else is just laughing. They're all going, "We can hear you perfectly." And it's just like that's like the classic example of it. Whereas back in the day, as a new act or a younger act, I'd have struggled with things like that. I'd have lost the whole audience. I'd have just gone, I don't know what I'm doing here. What's that? Whereas now you go, look, I know what I'm doing. What is, and it's a classic example of sometimes you're either going to get someone who's not into comedy, or they've just come because their friends dragged them along, or someone who's absolutely hammered, or you've got someone like that who's so rich that they think we've got every now and again, we've got to go and mingle with society to see what, like how the poorer people live. And just to sort of say, and it's just like, and you know what, at the end of the day, I laugh at it and think, do you know what? Turn everything to your advantage, write a routine out of it, maybe talk about it or something, or it gives you life experience, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference that's happened to me over time is that, you know, as you get older and you do more comedy, it's great. You just realize that, you know, nothing is off bounds. Apart from, obviously, I'm not offensive. I mean, I'm not, when I say nothing's off bounds, I mean, there's certain topics out there that there's no point that, like, you know, some people are really good at crossing that line, and fair play to them, nothing to do with me, you know, Frankie Ball, Ricky Gervais, whatever, it's up to them. You know, they've got great careers, crack on with it. It's not my thing, but it doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It's just, I don't, you know, do that. There's so many topics. I've got like, Mark, I've got about 27 books full of and notepads and phone notes and things. So I've got to write that up. I've got to put that in my show. If I then started to cover if I started to then talk about controversial topics, I'd be on stage for about 11 hours every night. So I'm like, just keep it light, just keep it fun.
A lot of your work also is based on your audience interaction. So, I mean, I imagine that you must go on stage with some ideas and then they just change because of the feedback you're getting. And how much do you actually alter the show during the show?
So, well, basically, I mean, if you look, in a nutshell, if you saw my preview in June, July, by the time it got to Edinburgh, it would be totally different. I remember doing 2 previews of the same show in Haworth last year on July the 24th, I think it was. And then I did Skipton and Sutton and Settle on the 25th, the day after. And it was like almost 2 different shows because I had mates come to the both of them. They went, hang on, have you just done the first half of the second? And they were like over an hour each of each show. So I was like, oh, nuts. Okay, so it's a great problem to have because I was thinking, okay, well, I've got loads, but I need to now decide which stories I want to put in this new show. And also, because it's a tour show, I need to have at least an hour and 20 minutes of material, hour and a half. And then when I get to Edinburgh, if you come to Edinburgh on day 1 and then watch the show again on the end of Edinburgh, it won't be as massively changed, but there'll still be a slightly different show to what you saw compared to the previews. So from the first preview to the end of Edinburgh in that space of 2 months, it will probably could be anywhere from 40 to 80% different show. And then when I then come to tour the show, then it's just like, it could be 30% of that show could be in the actual tour. It could be just like literally, because the first half of the show, everywhere I go, it's like 30, 40 minutes. First half of the show, I come out, quick chat with the audience, tell them where we're at. And I love doing a bit of stuff of where we are in the town, the place, if I've been there before, or if it's brand new to me, quick chat with the audience, because every night it's going to be, you're never going to have the same people in the front row, so it's always nice to see who's out. And then I'll do a bit. There's some routines from that. So that first half of the show, totally different. Could be, you know, with a couple of little bits, might be consistent. And then the second half of the show, I'll get in a bit more, and then I will do a bit of the structure of the show. So I would say if you saw it on tour, yeah, I mean, maybe the second half of the show there'll be a bit of consistency, but a lot of it is like like a map of the galaxies, where they have the stars, and that's what my map's like, where it's got routines like this,
Right.
and then I try and draw a line, and I try and go right. A few of these I can try and put in the first half, but this is pretty much the second half. All of these here,
Yeah.
and then if I don't do them all, it doesn't matter as long as they're enjoying it.
Yeah.
I'm doing this show,
Yeah.
and I've been in these village halls and whatever they are, and centres in town halls in these like villages in Cumbria. And there's one of them that had a trap door on the stage, and it just reminded me of I used to do a routine about trapdoors years ago. So I was like, oh my god, I forgot about this. I just did that routine, and then my Sean, who's been teching the show,
Yeah.
he sort of like rode in, like coming around on the tour doing the tech for these Cumbria dates, and then he reminds me. So he goes, "Hey, do you remember you used to do a routine?" I go, "Oh yeah, that's oh, yeah, I should maybe." Even though it's a brand new, this is the show I've already done,
Yeah.
and I'm already overrunning. But then I thought, oh, it doesn't matter. I'll just add that one in.
You've got a bit of a reputation for overrunning, though, don't you?
I know, shocking. I don't know where that came from. Very libelous, libel. Yeah, but you know what it is? Not my fault. And also, well, I mean, some of it is my fault, but most of it is. It's like when I'm doing a lot of shows, like if you're doing club shows, I don't do as many of them. But when I try and do, I love doing club shows to fill in.
Yeah.
But when you do club shows, particularly if you're doing it up north outside of London, and if you're going on at the end or whatever, the promoter will just say, "Look," and I just said, "Well, how long do you want me to do?" And they go, "I'll just do as long as you want, whatever." And I say, "Just give me a flash, whatever." And then, and most of the time, they'll just say to the compere or the host, just say, "Listen, I'll just wrap up the show. Or Patrick can just wrap up." But if they do stay, then it's not my fault because the promoter won't flash me, and then I'll just go on, and then I'll come on and go, "Well, how long?" And they go, "Yeah, you did like 50 minutes or whatever, an hour when you meant to do 20, 30." And then I said, "Oh, well, I thought you were going to flash me at 30." And he went, "No, you're enjoying it. And, no one's in a rush. Just crack on." So I think that's where, so when you get that sort of not laziness, that sort of blasé, that it's just like, yeah, whatever. No one's at the end of the day, no one gives a monkeys. No one comes to a comedy club and goes, "Right, we want our money back because it said on the ticket we're going to leave at 10:30. We left at 10:42." No, but I understand if you're a compere or something, then you know what? You can always just go home and just say, "Look, just wrap it up."
Yeah.
Because it's not fair for the people, is it?
Yeah.
I think it's just a value for money, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because look, if you went and saw, I remember seeing Tina Turner before she died. Imagine seeing Tina Turner and then she does an extra hour or an extra half an hour. You just be like, "Oh my god, this is like just doing extra songs." No one's going to complain. Oh my god,
Yeah.
So you just got to just get, enjoy it.
Yeah. I've never been at a club where they've said, "Oh, I'm supposed to wrap up, but should we keep going?" I've never had an audience go no. They always say, "Yeah, more."
Yeah, exactly. But why are people complaining? Yeah, can you stop making me laugh now? It's like, yeah, can you stop with this fun?
Touring as extensively as you do. I mean, you've been Europe and Australia and in Middle East, Dubai, Oman, these places. Because you've traveled so extensively and so for many years, how far do you think that your routines change between countries? Like where you are, how much is the humor different? How much is what you do receive differently?
Yeah, exactly. Well, massively. I mean, it depends because when you go to these different countries, look, like classic example, I was in Estonia. Was it last year now? Probably last year. And that was you like if I go to Australia, English is the first language, or you might go to Dubai, Middle East, and that's like doing a gig in London because it might be 60% of them are local Arabs, 20% might be from different parts of the Middle East. Some will be South African, some will be Mediterranean, some will be European. So it's totally different. Whereas Estonia was pretty much 99.9% of them were all Estonian, but their English, second language, but their English was amazing. It was perfect. Like their English was beautiful. So the only difference is you can do some of this, you can do some routines, but even if you try and do a routine that you do in the UK, it's just a different pace. It's a different, some of the references. like even like I would do like I'm doing a routine now in this tour show about like say bags for life, like I'm saying, like when you go, like we've all stolen a bag for life from a supermarket. It's not like we're deliberately stealing, but sometimes you're not going to pay for it because you're going to reuse it, right? So it's not really theft. And then I'll go on to like a 5-minute routine about things you can reuse, stuff like this. And in the UK they love that, but the thing is, in Estonia you could still do stuff like that, but they haven't got a clue what a bag for life is because it's just a different term over there. Like, obviously, they still have to pay for carrier bags, but you can't do the same way. Like the way that we have certain things we do like that. So you've got to change the whole thing and also the whole pace of it, because in Estonia, in some countries, it's a different culture. They'll be like, well, but why? What, the carrier bag? Why is this such a big thing? What is the carrier bag? Why would you? What is a bag for life? What, you mean a shopping bag? You mean a tote bag or whatever? It's like, so you totally. And the thing is, if it's all slightly different references, different offbeat. So what I do is I will go and do a little bit of research, do some stuff about their town, see what's happening, and then I will do more generic stuff, more stuff. Like, they love the fact of your background. They love the fact that it's, you got family from different parts of the world. They love the fact that, relationship stuff. You could talk about relationships till the cows come home in any country around the world, because every country around the world knows what a relationship like. They know what it's like to live with someone. They know what it's like to be single. They know what it's like to date. They know what it's like. That happens everywhere. Yeah. Even in the Middle East, where, you have arranged marriages, you could go to some place. I've done places where it's been like, 99% Muslim crowd. Doesn't matter. You still can talk about dating, relationships. They'll still get it, but you've got to do it in a slightly different way again, but still have the same sort of like punchlines, the same sort of funniness in the middle. And it's, this is what I always say to every comedian, particularly if it's an up and coming comedian or someone, I always go, listen, just do as many gigs as you can outside of the UK, because that's the only time you'll ever get better. It's like same as comparing. I used to compare back in the day. I don't really compare. I don't compare much at all. I just, tour shows, but I always say do a compare, because that will give you 6 gigs in one night. It just gives you them skills. Just do it. Even if you just do it for 6 months, just do it for 6 months, get some, because you could be an amazing act. Just doing, anyone can go on and hone a great 20 minutes, half an hour, an hour. But the problem is, but then you've got no skills outside of that. So then go and learn how to compare, where you can just go on and play to any audience, because comparing gives you the skill that you could suddenly go and play to, like, the audience could be just 80 people who've come from Sweden and they've never left Sweden. They're all like in their 60s. But you could still have a great time, because you could learn you're going to eventually chat to them. Then eventually you'll find common ground where you can talk about things. Yeah. And I think that's the thing you learn from, like, when you play overseas and stuff. Yeah. It just gives you that ammunition.
And we've talked a bunch about, some of these great comedians. Do you still watch comedy? Do you go out to see new comedy? Are you able to watch it the same way?
Well, do you know what? Listen, I would love to go out and watch it, but I just can't, because every night I'm working. The only time I could watch comedy is if someone's doing a show in the afternoon. I go, oh yeah, let's go and watch on an afternoon. It's so hard, because that's the problem. It's like, that's the thing with my missus, she was saying, like, about, we don't go out as much on an evening, like for date nights. And I'm saying, yeah, but we do in the day. We go out for like date days. We'll go out and we'll go for food in the daytime, or we'll do stuff where other people can't, because they're in an office. And I said, the reason we can't go and watch like a theatre show or the cinema so much on a night time is because that's when I'm working, apart from obviously like say a Monday night or a Sunday night, like maybe a Monday. But the thing is, how many tour shows are going to be on a Monday night? The reason I'm not working on a Monday night is because most people aren't working on a Monday night. No one's, so it's so hard. But then I'll try and go and catch a matinee. But that's why, the only thing is, that's why I love doing Edinburgh, because in Edinburgh you're for a month and you get one whole day off. And on that day off, I'll choose like maybe 2 or 3 shows, and I'll go and just watch 2 or 3 shows. And that's brilliant, because by then it's the middle of the run. The shows are good. They've like honed their act. Yeah. And in Edinburgh, it's the best place, because you'll see acts there that you won't necessarily have worked with. It'll be people who've come from overseas somewhere. There might be America. There might be somewhere that's just over for the month. Yeah. And it's great. And I go, oh, this is a good chance. Like, I remember seeing Trevor Noah. My mate came over. He was with me, and this was before Trevor Noah had even gone to America. He was huge, obviously in South Africa, but we didn't really know him in the UK. Yeah. And I remember we went to see him. Said to my mate, "Let's go and see this lad." I saw him do a late night show. We were doing like a late night thing, and I remember seeing him doing like 10 minutes. I said, "This guy looks good." And we went to watch his house show. It was me and my mate in a room in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
There might have been about 80 people in there. And I was watching, I thought, bloody hell, yeah, he's good. And then the next thing, about 2 years later, he's in America and he's like hosting all these big shows, whatever is the late show, whatever.
Yeah.
So that's why I love Edinburgh, because you do get a chance to see stuff. But in terms of seeing comedy now, I mean, it's like, yeah, I'd love to watch comedy. But like I said, I never really grew up watching live comedy.
Right.
But so it was never a thing like I was going, oh yeah, I'd love to. But it was the case of if we get like a night off where we get a chance to go out, the only thing I'd go and watch is like if I could see like a tour show, because that's when you really get to see someone, is when they're just doing, like, I love to see someone just do an hour and a half, because then you get to know about them, as opposed to, if you're doing a club show, on my Tuesday, Wednesday night, Thursday, if I'm not touring Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I'll do a club show on a Sunday, or I might go and pop into the 99 Club in London. It's a brilliant gig. I'll go and do that on a Wednesday night, but then you're on with 3 other acts, and it's brilliant. Yeah. But the thing is, it's like on a night off, there's no point watching that, because I've already, you're already working this. It's like a busman's holiday. Yeah. You're just like, oh, well. Whereas you want to, so I would, do you know what? That's why I went to see people like Ken Dodd.
Yeah.
Just because that is a special show. So if I was going to go and watch someone now, it'd have to be, I mean, I'm trying to think of like, what's like the equivalent to like a Ken Dodd, someone who's at there, that you're thinking, I've got to see this guy because they're going to retire very soon. I mean, there's not many of them now. I think most of that, they've gone now, haven't they? I don't think there's any of them left, is there?
No one's springing to mind.
Yeah, because everyone's pretty much in their peak now. Everyone's like, Flanagan. Flanagan's a brilliant, but he's going to be around for 20 years. Like, I'd go and watch someone like that. That's brilliant.
Oh yeah,
that's like,
he's great. He's great live.
Yeah. But it's I think that's the thing. But we're spoilt. We're at Edinburgh. That's the place. Edinburgh Festival. Even if you're not a comic or you are a comic, just go to Edinburgh, because you're gonna. That's where you get to see. Great. Great to see a great show.
Well, of course, obviously you got your Edinburgh show coming up. You're touring your current show now, exclusive, and you're doing your new show, Talkinator, in August. Yeah. How different is one show to the next? And I mean, what is Talkinator? Do you even know what it's going to be about?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, the shows are totally different, even though the style is still the same.
Yeah.
Like the 1 hour show in the previews or whatever, or the 1 hour show at the festivals will be this. It will be totally different to the show before, apart from maybe a couple of quick bit of banter. Like the structure will probably be the same way. It's like first 5 minutes, bang, how you doing? Bang, bang, front row, bang, 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 bang. How you guys? Bang, and then this is the show.
Yeah.
The tour show will be it's the same sort of energy, the same sort of a structure again, but the material is totally different. So like, for instance, like every year you get like your main routines about the show and then your big finale piece, whatever. And then it's a shame because that you work so hard getting them ready and they're beautiful and you think, oh, this is brilliant. I've got a call back. I've got this brilliant routine, bang. Yeah. And then you've just got to shelve that. And then you end up just using it if you're doing corporates or some of the festivals or if you want to film it for a DVD or something like that.
Yeah.
But so the new show, Talkinator, so basically it's like, Edinburgh's great because you can do anything at Edinburgh. You can do a themed show, you can do a straight stand-up show, you can do whatever, you can do an emotional show, you can do a play, you can do whatever.
Yeah.
And for me, because I just love stand-up, so what I do is, for Edinburgh, I just like to do like a straight stand-up show. I don't really want it to be too themed, because for me, my aim of doing Edinburgh is that I'm going to tour this show all around the country. And as much as the Edinburgh audiences are brilliant, Edinburgh audiences are beautiful. They'll come, they listen to everything. They really go for. They'll go along with whatever you've got, as long as it's as long as you're structured and confident about it.
Yeah.
But the problem is, when you go to Bolton, or you go down to Devon, or you go to Southampton, they could not give a monkeys about what your theme is, but they just want to be entertained. And that's the thing. Edinburgh's brilliant, but people forget Edinburgh's only 26 days of the year. It's not even a full month a year.
Yeah.
There's 11 months of the year where you've got to tour around the country, and these people, they've worked all week. working their nuts off. They're spending this money to come out to a theatre arts centre, to a club venue to see you or see the show. They haven't got time to start worrying about the other things. They just want to be entertained. And yeah, of course, you can take them on a journey. You can sort of make them suddenly reflect and go, oh my God, oh yeah, really? But then as long but as long as there's a big finale, you need to keep it funny. And and I'm not knocking it. I think it's brilliant that people could do them stories, where, there's tragedy in it and all that. And I think that's lovely.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that's just, it's not me. And that's a good thing, because if we were all the same, then it would just get boring. That's the thing. So for me, if you come and see Talkinator, it's just basically, it's sort of like a play on a couple of things, of obviously the fact that I talk a lot, but obviously on the fact of, like, at the moment, everything's about AI. The world is going to get taken over by robots outsmarting humans. And it's like, people are predicting about in the next 10 years, AI is going to outsmart humans. And I'm like, and one of the things when I was reading about this and heard about this in the news, I was like, I mean, have people not been up to the north of England, like the Commodore 64 was outsmarting humans decades ago. We don't even have to wait for AI. It's like we've already moved on, and it's a case of like, there's so much and people are just skeptical. It's that thing where AI is not going to take over. I mean, it can improve stuff, but it's not going to take over. There's so many jobs that it doesn't matter how advanced technology becomes, it's still never going to take over human work. And it's great because there's so many things. This helps me talk about jobs that I did as a kid, growing up as a teenager. It helps me talk about life, and then even modern day stuff. It talks about what we do now for work and routines, and about live comedy, everything. So it's just that. So it just gives me a great idea. It gives me a great way to hang off so many observational materials about and stuff. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, and you know what? It's great because it's like what I've been doing Edinburgh nearly as many years as I've been doing stand-up. I was one of them lunatics that just I went and did Edinburgh within the first year of starting doing stand-up. The first day I went was a competition, because I didn't even know what Edinburgh was. Loads of comics went up to Edinburgh. I was like, what's Edinburgh? When I started. Yeah. And then I ended up in a competition which took me to Edinburgh. Yeah. And then I realized, oh, wow, this place is great. Then the following year I went back, did a compilation, and then every year I just did a stand-up show there. And it's probably, I wouldn't recommend that now to people, because I'd be like, you want to obviously, I did it the hard way, because every year it puts that pressure on you to think, Jesus Christ, I've got to write another. And it's always like that band's second tricky album. The first year was all right. The second year can get a bit harder, because you're thinking, Jesus Christ, I can't use any of that stuff. I've got to write new. But then eventually, 6-7 years down the line, 10 years down, every year you write a new show, then it gets easier. And you go, actually, yeah, I'm actually bored of talking about that stuff, even though I've only talked about it for 8 months. Right, I'm ready to do this. I want to talk about this now, this. Yeah. So it is, it's it's just a great way of just doing an hour of new stand-up, exciting stuff, mainly stuff about now. I always like reflect back on the past as well. Yeah, because you've got such a diverse audience. And like my audience, even last night on tour, I get like 13-year-old kids coming in with their parents to watch the stand-up show, and then there's women in their 80s, so in that same audience. So I love it. That's my demographic, from 8 to 108. So it's like, so that's why I keep my stand-up shows like that. Brilliant.
Fantastic. Patrick, how can we find out about you and where we can come and see you perform?
So basically, I'm on everything on social is Patrick J. Monahan. So it's at Patrick J. Monahan for Insta, Twitter, which is X, Facebook, YouTube as well, Patrick J. Monahan Comedian, and then on TikTok as well. So I literally put loads of videos out. Every day I'm always trying to put like a little clip of like some of my stand-up, or I'll put a clip of some sketches I've been working on, or trailers for upcoming tours. And then my website, patrickmonahan.co.uk, it's got like every tour show that I'm doing upcoming. Yeah. And social media, I'll keep you updated. There'll be loads of like dates coming on like that. Yeah. But yeah, you can't really miss it now. You got the internet, you just Google Patrick Monahan, where is he? And then hopefully it'll come up and say he's on stage still, overrunning by an hour. Come and grab him. So it's like, oh yeah, I love it.
So my last question then, the question I ask everyone, all of my guests, how would you sum up comedy in a nutshell?
Yeah, I would say we are so. I mean, that's a great question because it is. Comedy is so. I mean, we've even talked about it here, where we said comedy is so. What's that term? Like, not judgment. What's the thing? Where it's where
Subjective.
subjective. Is that what you said? Yeah,
Subjective.
subjective.
Yeah.
Comedy is so subjective, and I think that's the best thing about it. It's the most ambiguous. It's a bit like the great things that we have in life: water, air, food, and comedy, isn't it? Laughter. It's like one of their emotions, and I think food and comedy are the two most subjective things. Everything else, or our essential stuff, air and what that's just standard. But I think with comedy, you need that laughter, and I think it's more essential than people think, especially now in the world with what's going on. And I think that's one of the new things I'll probably talk about in Talkinator is like the world's going bonkers, the world, not just with the wars, but not just with young people growing up with anxiety and everything. And I think comedy is the only thing that's going to save people, and I think comedy shows, comedy comedians, everything that's going to be more prescribed on the NHS than anything else. We just need it. And I think if I was describing comedy to anyone, I would say, look, it's an essential necessity. It is subjective, but it's like everything. Penicillin, that's not for everyone. Some people are allergic to it, but comedy is like them vaccines. For like COVID, it's one of them. You're gonna have pro and anti comedian people, whatever. But at the end of the day, hopefully we'll be in the majority, and that's it. Just got to get on with it. But yeah, I think comedy is essential, really. What was it's like that old football term, isn't it? Where was it Bill Shanks? They said football is like religion, isn't it? But much more important or something, or much more serious. I can't remember. I think comedy's a bit like that. Comedy is much more than life. I think that's because what's the point? I mean, what is the point of people going to work all week or people living life and then if they can't, then go and have a laugh? I mean, you know what I mean? It's mental. And I think that's what we do, and it's like, I always believe, everyone can go out there and do a comedy show, do comedy, but people always sometimes think they can't. And I think, well, regardless of whether you want to do comedy or not, we're out there doing it and you have to come and just laugh. And we're doing that. And 9 times out of 10, we're doing that to make sure that the audience are happy and they go home. I mean, I've been on tour to some places that are beautiful, but like I went to Alston Town Hall, which is a beautiful place, but it's like 1,100 and something feet above sea level. It's like on a hill in the middle of Cumbria. Yeah. And then people don't even get, they don't even get delivery of food more than once a month, in a truck. It's in the middle of nowhere. Then I went and did a comedy show. Then I think, do you know what? That's why we do this job, to go places where people are just cut off, they just don't get anything. So I think, at the end of the day, I think it's vital. Yeah. I think I think it should be prescribed on the NHS.
Patrick, thank you so much for spending time with me. I've absolutely loved it. Thank you.
No worries. Thanks, Mike.